All right, guys, finally. Durham investigation is going to start leaking stuff. Horowitz has got some stuff that he's coming. It's coming. Wow, it is coming. Here's Fox News.
Attorney John Durham power to subpoena witnesses, file charges, and impanel fact-finding grand juries.
Here is how Republican Congressman John Ratcliffe explained it just a short time ago.
John Durham had to let Michael Horowitz finish this work. When people read the Inspector General's impending report, it'll be very clear why the Durham investigation has now moved to a criminal probe. The things that we're looking at took place and can be verified before Donald Trump ever put his hand on the Bible and became our president. Bill Barr, was troubled by the lack of a predicate to investigate Donald Trump as a candidate is really what has lit the fuse behind this. What happened here is the Obama administration took a vital national security tool, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, and they misused it to surveil for political reasons.
We have live Fox team coverage. We will get new reaction from Kellyanne Conway in just a few minutes. But we begin with Griff Jenkins. He's live in Washington. Griff.
Good morning, John. This shift has serious implications for the very reasons you mentioned, the power to subpoena witnesses, empower a grand jury, and file criminal charges. What's unclear, John, is what prompted the shift and when it happened. So here's what we know. In May, Attorney General Barr appoints U.S. Attorney Durham to begin reviewing how the Russia probe began. Then in August and September, Barr and Durham traveled to Italy to investigate. Then on this past Tuesday, we learned the probe has expanded. They want interviews with former DNI James Clapper and former CIA Director John Brennan. All this happening as we also know a November 15th deadline approaches for the DOJ to decide whether or not to charge former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe.
Now, the deadline to charge McCabe, that's interesting, November 15th. So this next month is going to be powerful. The end of this month and next month is going to be powerful before November's over. Wow.
Now, reaction here in Washington has been swift. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham says he wants to know a lot more.
Tell us what happened with the FISA warrant application. Was the counterintelligence investigation properly opened? Was there any wrongdoing by DOJ and the FBI? Somebody's got to watch those who watch us. But here's what you can't fix. You can't unring a bell.
But the chairman of the House Judiciary and Intelligence Committees, Jerry Nadler and Adam Schiff, had this warning, writing, these reports, if true, raise profound new concerns that the Department of Justice under Attorney General William Barr has lost its independence and become a vehicle for President Trump's political revenge. If the Department of Justice may be used as a tool.
Boy, this is real crap, but it's going to either divide the nation or unite it. What's going to happen? Just bogus crap from the dead. Look at Adam Schiff and Jerry Nadler. They suck.
Tool of political retribution or help the president with a political narrative for the next election, the rule of law will suffer new and irreparable damage. Meanwhile, John, we got a new letter yesterday from the DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz saying his FISA abuse report is, quote, nearing completion, coming very soon. Horowitz also saying it's likely to have very few redactions. So a lot happening this Friday morning. John?
Yeah, fascinating development.
Very few redactions. We heard that earlier, so here it comes. Go Horowitz, go Durham, go Barr. All right, counsel for the president? Wow.
Good morning.
Good morning.
If you could just first react to the White House, what is the White House response to the Durham investigation now becoming a criminal investigation just days after we learned that that probe had widened?
That's up to the Department of Justice, obviously, and I would just say if people have nothing to hide about the shenanigans and malfeasance that they may have been committing in the 2016 election, then they have nothing to worry about. But I do have to wonder why the same people who put this country through 2+ years, $35 million of taxpayer money, 500 witnesses, thousands of subpoenas, the whole 9 yards in the Mueller investigation went nowhere, don't think that we should try to get to the bottom of what other people may have been doing to try to influence or subvert the 2016 election results, we already know that they were looking for a, quote, insurance policy. We already know that people like Page and Strzok and Orr and McCabe are household names now, and the country has a right to know. You know what we who were involved in the Trump campaign, I was the campaign manager, you know what we're guilty of? The best political upset in American history, in modern political history. If other people are guilty of obstructing justice or destroying evidence, we have a right to know. And I'm patient enough to let the process unfold. And I just can't believe that folks who are for transparency and sunlight and investigations and the facts first are already trying to get in the way of this.
Well, that is what you're hearing from Democrats on the issue, because as the probe was widening
they're worried.
Earlier in the week, Jerry Nadler, who is obviously chairman of House Judiciary, Adam Schiff, chairman of House Intel, they put out a statement saying that this raises profound concerns that the DOJ...
That's just foolishness. Let's get on with this. All right, we need to get on with the investigation. This is serious. Investigations by Durham and Horowitz and Barr. They've had such opposition. You got to wonder why the severe opposition. There's some real criminal intention and criminal actions that are going on in both parties, but especially the Democratic Party.
FBI under the Obama administration in 2016 was not being used as a tool to influence the elections. So I would actually fact check it by taking out Trump administration and putting in the last administration. Why wouldn't we want to know a year, Sandra, before the next election? Don't we have a right to know if people who the taxpayers are...
All right, so, yeah, switch Obama in the place of Trump.
If they were or were not subverting justice and trying to interfere with the elections. Again, what are they afraid of? If you've done nothing wrong, you have nothing to be afraid of. But there is conflicting testimony by some of these folks. We've seen some of the text messages. Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS has taken the fifth, has said very little. So what are we afraid of? And in the case of Adam Schiff, you know, I just have to say, anybody who has him on TV, anybody who listens, asks him for a public statement in the halls of Congress, ought to first hand him a Bible, remind him what it is, and have him swear under oath that he's going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
He's quite a liar. Trump saying it's a giant scam? It probably is. She's threatened
reporter is, why do you call yourself a breaking news reporter if what you wrote wasn't breaking news and wasn't even reporting? You're writing about somebody else's, you're derivatively reporting what somebody else wrote, Bloomberg, which the president denounced in a tweet, debunked in a tweet, and then you're lazily covering somebody's tweets and something that happened 7 months ago. So I was asking her a question.
Do you regret anything about the way that you handled that? I mean, they've released the transcript of the phone call, because to your point, it was an on-the-record call. They released the transcript, and on multiple occasions,
I don't know that it was.
She asked to put you on the phone with her editor, and you refused.
I tell you, Fox News is getting more and more liberal in my mind. Funding for all. Wow.
Campaign with her Democratic base, especially her base, which is very progressive. But she needs to be honest, and I think you're seeing people call her out on it, especially since she has something of a front-runner status, or at least co-equal with with former Vice President Biden. I will say this. If you look at her argument, it's very interesting. It is a tax on the very wealthy that she is predominantly going to use to pay for this. The question is how much of an increase it would mean in taxes for the middle class. She makes the case that overall cost of health care in terms of deductibles and premiums would be reduced. But she's not being honest, I think, in saying there would be no increase for the middle class.
Well, Grover, you dug into it with your piece. And Elizabeth Warren wants to raise taxes for the middle class Americans, not just the rich. In your piece, you don't just talk about her having to raise taxes on the middle class. You talk about her having to impose massive tax increases on our middle class.
Well, she's already told us some things. She said she'll repeal the Trump Republican tax cuts. For the median income family of 4, that's a $2,000 tax increase each year. For a single mother with 1 child, $35,000, it's a $1,300 tax increase every year. That's just, and she spent this money, by the way, many, many times. Every time she talks, it's not just Medicare for all. She's doing all sorts of other spending, and every time she tells you it's the same 3 rich guys are going to pay for it all. In point of fact, She talks about taxing rich people the way magicians do misdirection. They say, oh, look over here. She wants you to think she's taxing rich people. There's not enough money there to do all the things she wants. She's going to go straight to the middle class. This is what Sweden does. This is what Denmark does. This is what the European countries that spend the way she and Bernie Sanders want to. And Sanders admits he'll raise tax on the middle class, but he hasn't put some numbers on that. When he puts numbers on that...
He called her out on that debate stage and said, let's be honest here.
But he hasn't put numbers.
Talking about some of the other candidates, obviously Joe Biden, still the front runner when you look at the national polling. He has dropped his opposition to super PAC support. I'll remind everybody with this tweet what he said back in April 20...
Anyhow, I care less about Biden. He's not going to make it. Wait and see. These super PACs, I think they need to be eliminated.
Obamacare, never mind Medicare for all.
Grover Norquist and Juan Williams, appreciate